Don, how are you?
Yeah, good. So it's really awesome that we'll have this conversation because we're getting a lot of questions also on options, no, of where to study. And this is actually our first conversation with the Gen Z, technically, and we're doing a Gen Z series, Filipino Gen Z series also. And but particularly for this one, for hi, good morning to all those people watching on the live stream and watching on the replay.
Good
We'll be
morning.
talking to Patrice on how to study in Spain. So Patrice was the one who, uh, you know, really applied, processed all, going to Spain. And we wanted to talk to her. What's her motivation? The reason why Spain, there are a lot of other options, and how to do it. Or if you have kids, no, na still younger, if they wanted to consider. So we'll be talking to Patrice about this. And if you're joining in the live stream, please join us and join our discussion. My name is Anton Diaz, founder of Our Awesome Planet. We're awesome live with Patrice de Guzman. Can you do a short introduction? All right, Patrice. So maybe let's do a short introduction. Can you introduce yourself and why Spain?
All right, so hello everyone. I am Patrice de Guzman. I am a graduate from Assumption College San Lorenzo in Makati, and I will be going to the University of Navarra in Pamplona, Spain to fulfill my studies in the degree of International Relations. I am the daughter of Perla de Guzman, who is the founder and owner of Baby Pat Breads and Pastries, in which we create great ensaimadas. And I will be going to the University of Navarra since I realized that they have amazing quality education with regards to my interests. And since I'm going to international relations, it is really important to have a community that's very diverse and that's very rich in culture. And that is um, one of the prime reasons why I picked this specific university. And since, with regards to international relations, I do think it's really important to learn a third language, even whether or not you are proficient with it. So I picked Spanish since I believe Spanish has not only is influenced with the Filipino culture and the language, but there are lots of opportunities when one becomes fluent in Spanish. So not only did I take into consideration the international community, I took into consideration the inward learning, which is learning the language and being able to immerse in such diverse culture.
Okay. So first, so the famous My Baby Pat ensaimadas is named after you and your brother, correct? Or what's the
Yes.
story para lang to give perspective kasi My Baby Pat, so you're Patrice, yeah.
So as I mentioned a while ago, my mom is the founder and owner of Baby Pat Breads and Pastries. Her mom, Patria Makalindong, is has a bake shop called Pat's Cake House, and since my mom wanted to continue her legacy of inspiring people through food and different pastries, my mom put up um, the Baby Pat present pastries when she passed away. So not only was it not only was it for my mom to continue her mother's legacy, it was also um, influenced by how my brother and I were named. So my brother's name is Patrick, while my name is Patricia or Patrice. Yes.
Wow. All right. So that's good. That's good to know. And that's inspiring for all the home-based people out there. They can send their kids abroad also. So because of the home-based business. So now, first, I know you chose, but can you take us back to the thinking process on why Spain? Are the Filipino Gen Zs already thinking about different options aside from studying in the Philippines and because ang dami na eh, not only in Spain, not only in US, some are in Hong Kong, some are in Japan, so parang they're considering it. What's happening and how are your generation thinking about studying and considering Spain?
All right. So if we think about it, since the COVID pandemic has affected each and every one of us differently, there are those kinds of doubts or concerns on having to put aside the opportunity of going abroad to fulfill one's studies. And this has become um, quite an issue for some students because there is the feeling that, oh, we have to stay with our family, so we have to just continue here because we couldn't go out. But I think what's nice with this generation was how this shouldn't limit us from being able to research on our interests, our hobbies, and much more. And what I really noticed with regards to this generation was how we are very determined to
Okay.
fulfill our studies. And like for example, if one is interested in political science or computer engineering, there are really the students um, who are of my age or in similar ages really take the effort to research on what are the best universities that provide such degree, what are the best universities that provide different kinds of programs to hone our talents and abilities. And that is one reason why I took into consideration being able to study abroad for college. So, for example, for for the University of Navarra, I noticed that there are quite a lot of Filipinos specifically applying for first year this
Mhm.
academic year. And in
Oo
fact,
nga, ang dami. Parang ang dami nga
in
eh, 'no?
in fact we're one of the biggest batches biggest Filipino batches to go for the University of Navarra this year compared to the last few years. So I think that really says a lot about the determination and passion for students of my age to go for an international perspective for their university studies.
Okay. So how do you prepare for going to Spain? So let's talk about studying in Spain. No? Um, First, syempre ang dami ring I know that there's a lot of universities in Spain that are campaigning here. No, how did you zoom in into Navarra? Is there a particular incentive for going to Navarra, or is it because of the location? How do you think about studying which university?
All right. So I think what I really like about the University of Navarra is how they um, really guide their students towards the application and admission process. From my experience, I recall the University of Navarra having an info session in my school in Assumption College, San Lorenzo. And the moment they had their info session, I was already interested with their programs because they always emphasize on the richness in culture, the international community, and the location, which is Pamplona itself. And Pamplona is actually known to be a student city.
Mm-hmm.
So in the around the areas, around the buildings in Pamplona, there are lots of residences where students actually stay to go to travel or transport to the university. And since personally I really like big big areas, or like big parks and greeneries, and actually the University of Navarra is awarded to have such a um, really picturesque and amazing green area. And that actually is something that I also took into consideration, since I also like walking and I like discovering new areas. So I think
Oo.
what's really nice with the University of Navarra, or Pamplona in general, is being able to connect not only with academics but also with the area. And I also took into consideration the specific application and admission process,
Mm-mm.
since since the Assumption College San Lorenzo didn't have IB such back
Oo nga.
then.
Yeah.
They have
Paano yung IB? Do
usually,
they require IB?
actually they don't require IB because there is also a specific step-by-step process when it comes
Okay.
to applying in abroad, or specifically in Spain or University of Navarra, in which you can um, provide specific documents that would be acknowledged by the university, like
Like what? Yeah.
for example, the proof of English as a medium of instruction is really important in
Okay.
order
So paano yun? TOEFL,
to
parang ganyan.
yeah, they actually usually so for example, University of Navarra acknowledged TOEFL or the IELTS, but actually I didn't have to take that because
Okay.
I requested the quote unquote proof of English as medium of instruction to from my school, and
Ah,
they gave
may
me that
change naman.
document for me to submit. And at first I asked the university, is the TOEFL really required, or the IELTS? Because I think there were some changes since everything is online. And they
Mm-mm.
said that yes, we actually acknowledge it because of the current situation. And there might also be some doubts with students with regards to the SAT or the SAT, because
Oo.
some universities require it. But in fact, I didn't have to take the SAT,
So
and
ano
they
lang, anong
acknowledged the
requirement nila?
current. I'm
The ano
sorry.
lang, from the assumption lang, the grades from assumption.
Yes, from they actually took my grade 11 grades for the application process.
Okay.
So that already, if you, let's say if you are in grade 12, you can already prepare and inquire with such universities if you want to apply abroad.
Oo. So how early nga yeah, let's talk about timing no and language. So how long should you prepare? So like for example for you, you're flying next week. So you prepared 1 year. You applied 1 year ago or more. When did you apply?
Actually, I applied around October, and
Last
The
year,
October November frame 2020, yes. And
2025. 1 year.
that time, usually that time I already had my documents compiled, since during the Burr months my batch and I myself already compile some of our documents to get ready for college, whether you're planning to apply for college in the Philippines or abroad. So for
Mhm.
example, um, even if it was not asked yet, I already requested from my school registrar for example, the transcript of records,
Okay, what else?
the report cards, certified true copies of report cards, proof of English as medium of instruction, especially since one is going to a university that's not that has another language, another official language. And usually those are the three main documents that I had to request for and that I had to submit. Usually it's best, for example, for University of Navarra, um, they already acknowledge such documents, so I could just continue pushing with the main application, which is on the admission portal of the University of Navarra.
Oo. There's test pa. What are the tests required getting into a university in Spain?
Usually, it depends on on the university and also on the degree, because for the University of Navarra, depending on the degree that you plan to pursue, um, you either could go straight to your degree, or you have to take a foundation year program from that in that university. So I can explain what a foundation program is.
Yes,
So
what is it?
basically, a foundation program is like an introductory course that lasts for a year, in order for such student to immerse in the culture, the language, the
Yeah.
atmosphere, how daily routines are like, what are the schedules like. Usually, a foundation year is for one to prepare for the actual university study. Um, Foundation years usually are taken if, let's say, one is not ready yet to go to the degree, or if one is unsure what specific degree to take. For the case of University of Navarra, usually there are students who have to take a foundation year because the first year of the university studies already has Spanish courses. In my
Okay.
case, for international relations, the first year is entirely English. So I was
Talaga?
suggested
Galing ah.
to go straight to my degree, because for the since my degree is a 4 year course, for the second to the fourth year, they gradually add Spanish courses related to my degree already. Yes, that's that's why I went straight to international relations rather than taking a foundation year. So I think foundation year programs are actually also advisable for those who already have to, I mean, in the context of Spain, for those who have to already take Spanish on their first degree, on their first year of their degree, they can take the foundation year. And it's also great since you are formally taking Spanish lessons for the
Oo.
language.
So just to clarify, no. So you don't need to study in Instituto Cervantes here to learn Spanish to before applying. It's
It's
not
not
required.
a requirement actually, because um it depends with your degree, with what you want to take in the university itself, and it also depends if such university offers the foundation year programs, which in the case of University of Navarra they do.
Okay. Meron si Tito Sanjeev may question.
Hello.
Congrats now, Patrice. Now,
Thank you.
I have a question. If for some reason you were not accepted at UN, what was your plan B?
All right. So
Was there a plan
basically,
B,
the
or how did you do your choices of universities?
does Tito Sanju mean UN like the United
University of
Nations
Navarra.
or
Hindi,
the
siguro
universe?
University
Okay.
of Navarra. Yeah.
So for UNAV, for University of Navarra, um, it was actually one of my main decisions because I actually applied to three universities overall.
Okay. Can
So
you mention it or hindi?
I can mention it. So
Where did you apply?
I applied to first it was University of Navarra. Actually, the University of Navarra was the I believe the second or the last university I applied to formally.
Uh,
Um,
Formally.
the first
The first.
university that I applied to or I've collected my documents for was Yonsei University in South Korea.
Okay.
And then I applied for Philippines. I applied to Ateneo only because I was
Wow.
set for international relations, that
Okay.
aspect of studies. And to be honest, the international diplomacy and international relations is not fully recognized or is not as common compared to other countries. So for the Philippines, the main university that I noticed that has the program of international relations was Ateneo, and and then the third university was the University of Navarra.
Okay. Wow. So,
Yes.
um, so uh, I'm not sure if you answered it. Did you have to take an entrance test in University of Navarra or hindi based on credentials?
Um, based Okay, I'll mention it. So in the University of Navarra, if you plan to take the foundation year program, usually whether you are taking the foundation year program or whether you are entering to the actual degree, there is an entrance test. Personally, I had to take it online since um because of the pandemic. And for the foundation year program, the entrance exam is not really like based
Required.
on your intellect or your knowledge on, let's say, Spanish or whatever. It's usually they usually give you a test for them to know what your proficiency in Spanish is and what your interests or what your interests are specifically going towards to.
Okay.
And for my degree, for undergraduate studies, the entrance test depends on your specific degree. For example, in my case, in international relations, since it's related to, let's say, politics, psychology, and all those humanities and social sciences related courses, I had to take their exam that had those topics. And personally, I do think it's actually bearable because the level of um level of the exam is just for you to know um your knowledge or if you have an idea of such topic, and
Mm,
if you are at least ready to experience subjects and topics that are related to your degree. So, for example, if let's say one is having to go to medicine, since they actually have a degree for medicine, of course, I believe the topics for the exams are STEM related, science and math related. So it really depends on what you plan to take And it's not like, for example, here in the Philippines, where we take the fixed college examinations, wherein
Uh-uh.
um,
Yes.
you situate yourself in, let's say, the university's classroom. Everyone answers the same kind of
Uh-uh.
exam, and
Yeah.
that that exam, gives you either the opportunity to pass the university.
Okay. Now question. Just to directly answer Sanjeev's question. So I guess your backup would have been the South Korea
Yes,
university, no?
actually.
And how was that? It's really interesting, no? A lot of the Gen Zs are considering international, not only the US, no. Ayun nga, including South Korea. Ma-digress na tayo ng konti. Bakit South Korea? Is it because of the K-pop culture, or is it, you just want a different environment, and K-pop and Korea seems to be a cool place to study?
Actually, during the start of the pandemic, I wanted to learn um a, a language just for fun.
Uh,
Just to keep myself occupied. So I self-studied Korean. Just the basic
Talaga?
ones. Yes, and I think for my case, actually, the Yonsei University offered has a degree called Politics and International Relations, and I
Uh,
think I really
Related.
wanted to go towards I really wanted to pursue a program in a country that has a very rich culture, and one that makes me immerse myself in a new language. So I took into consideration South Korea, since international relations really emphasizes on relationships with different countries and being able to be, be immersed in a completely different culture from ours. I took into consideration South Korea and Spain.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. Now, next question. When you apply for a university in Spain, are there grants or scholarships that you have to consider, or was it really more of the course that you wanted to pursue? Um, May mga scholarship ba ang Spain?
I really do think it depends on the country, and I mean depends on the university that you're applying for, because I mean we know that every university is different. Every university has their own specializations, their own ways of learning, and even communities, or the at least the size of or how many students are able to enter such university, how many students stay there, and I think that plays into consideration. Personally, I focused on what the university can provide for its students, or what the specific programs that I've applied to can hone their students' talents, and that's why I chose University of Navarra. In terms of grants and scholarships, I think the University of Navarra offers them, but I also do think it depends on um, your nationality or where you are from, because in my case, from how I noticed it, when it comes to grants and scholarships, in the University of Navarra, they really focus specifically on Spanish citizens or
Okay.
Spanish nationals. I mean, I think it also is the same in the Philippines, wherein if you wish to pursue university studies in, let's say, in the Big Four, or in specifically in the Philippines, the scholarships and grants revolve around Filipino citizens. Same with Spain. So, to answer such the question, I do think it really depends on the university if they offer scholarships or grants to international students, or to qualifying international students that have their that complete their requirements.
Okay. Now, in terms of tuition fee, no, I won't ask the actual amount, but is it true that it's almost the same as studying in the Philippines as well, or what's the comparison? How should a student or a parent right now considering studying, in South Korea or in Spain versus the universities here in the Philippines?
From how I see it, again, it really depends on the university and country one is going to. I mean, if I compare, let's say, Spain to the US, um, there's a really, really big difference because the US, I think the US has, for example, in the US, they have a different set of criteria or standard on how much the tuition is. In the Philippines, it also could depend on the university. I think um, if I were to compare Philippines and Spain or University of Navarra, I think the University of Navarra is relatively higher than um, than universities in the Philippines in terms of the tuition. And for Pamplona or for University of Navarra, since it's situated in Pamplona, which is not the main tourist city, or I mean compared to, let's
Right.
say, Madrid or Barcelona, it's
Mm-mm.
relatively there is a difference.
Okay,
And
meaning cheaper than the
usually I believe it is less since
less. Okay.
for, let's say, if you go to Madrid for university, I think one has to take into consideration not only the location of the university itself in Madrid, there's also the cost of living, such as, let's say, rent or daily, food and beverages, those specific fees. It really is different, and I do think it really depends on the location of the university one is heading towards to.
Okay, that's good. How many percent was your choice influenced by your parents and even the process or lahat ikaw lang ba gumawa lahat ng ito? When you decided you wanted this university, ikaw na nag-process lahat and ikaw na nag-apply, etc.
Yes, actually, my family, my parents are really supportive of me going to the University of Navarra and me going to Europe because I mean, my family really is intrigued by the culture of Europe in itself, and my since my father is towards the side of diplomacy. I really I really like the support that I have since we have the same interests, and this it's like going towards the same career path or journey. So they really can see that Spain and my university, the University of Navarra, has a lot to offer for the international relations, and that's why they were more than convinced to go to finally decide on this option. With
Mm-hmm.
regards to, let's say, going for the application process, I did most of them
Okay.
since the application process really revolves around me and my own requirements, such as having to, as I mentioned, having to request for my transcript of records, my report cards, and all those. I process them all mostly by myself. Yes.
Okay. That's good. Now, thank you so much. We learned a lot. Are you not scared of going to Spain on your own in during these COVID times? Because Spain has a lot of cases as well, and you're, far from family. So what goes on your mind as you about to fly to Spain next week for your studies?
I think I do have kind of like mixed emotions with regards to the idea of flying and the idea of having to live thousands of miles away from my parents for the first time. Because not only is the pandemic making us feel anxious about the situations, but also how things will actually change if I mean live away. I mean, I do think if we are to compare me living away from my parents during non-COVID times to COVID times, of course there are lots of differences, and that's something I took into consideration. Luckily, the University of Navarra has never closed down, even for a day,
Mm,
last school
nice.
year, because they are very systematic and very um, precise in how they uphold COVID precautions in the university and in Pamplona. In fact, if we consider the COVID cases or the COVID situation in Pamplona, it's actually relatively less compared to, let's say, the main cities, because they really take into consideration how they protect their students, since Pamplona, as I mentioned, is a student city. And I think that's really nice, and I feel really thankful that I am able to fulfill my first year of studies abroad, on site.
How many of your
Yes.
friends are going back to with you? How many from your friends are also going to Spain?
Um,
Marami ba kayo?
Actually, I mean, we're 22, around 22 Filipinos in
Wow,
the
ang dami.
Filipino batch going to the University of Navarra for their first year, or at least this year. I actually know some of those Filipinos from our batch. They've already flown
Mm-hmm.
to Spain and to settle in the area. Um, I actually have one classmate who's also going to the University of Navarra this year, so it's really nice to see great people, great friends to go to University of Navarra.
All right. Wow. We're so excited for you. Make sure we'll pray for your safe flight. Are you bringing the recipe of my baby pat to Pamplona anytime?
I mean, I'm actually flying with my parents to
Ah, okay.
Spain next week. So of course, I mean, why not bring ensaimadas?
Yes. And
Yes,
yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for the inspiring a lot of not only the Gen Zs, but I guess the parents as well, who are who at least you shared with them what goes on your mind now. And how should the next generation should think about ongoing studies. Any final message to the parents out there, or even the kids out there, the Gen Z kids who are nasa, like my kid is still in grade 11, no? So we're about to consider options for them as well. Any final
yes.
message?
I actually have some messages, because when it comes to the idea of college application, some feel nervous, some have doubts and concerns, but I don't. As someone who has passed that phase of applying, I think it's really important that one considers research in order to have a final decision on what they want to take as for their degrees, or what university they wish to go to. So one, I do think research on one's interests, one's degree choice, and one's university preference is really important. And there's no reason to be afraid to email admission offices, or to email, let's say, people from our past, from older batches, or from university staff, with regards to any kind of question, doubt, or concern that one may have. Regardless if you're planning to apply for university in the Philippines or abroad, being able to inquire and ask as many questions as you wish is really important. And when it comes to choosing which university or which degree, it is important to have an organized plan or backup, because the idea of the collection of documents from, let's say, school registrars or from specific offices can take long. So it's really important to have an organized compilation of lists or needs for your university degree or university preference. So yes, I think it's really important that one must not be afraid to um, experience the college applications, because it is a very important step in our life to experience this stage, and to be able to communicate with other people with regards to our interests. And I think, yes, do not be afraid to take advice, and do not be afraid to um, hear thoughts from other people with regards to your own interests.
All right. Thank you so much. Can we ask you a final question? Which is your,
Okay.
because you're international relations and this is right up your alley. Now, what do you think? Because next year is voting season, we'll be voting for the next president. And we believe that your generation, especially those that turned 18, have a big influence to the result of that that election, no? Now, so my first question is, how do your generation, those who just turned 18, think about voter registration? And since you're flying abroad, how would you consider, would you just say, okay, I don't we won't have the capability to vote next year, or just how do you think about it? Because this is also very important for the history of our country, and you're in international relations, so that's why I hope you don't mind, or what do you think, or at least what your generation think?
Actually, with my generation, like the Filipino Gen Z students and citizens, we are very vocal with regards to the importance of voting. And what's really nice is how we emphasize on why voting is important and why every vote counts. Because there may be some doubts, I believe, or concerns that, oh, why do I have to vote? It's just one. It's just I'm just one person. What is the need for me to vote if I am not as big, or if I am not as prominent in the country? But actually, every Filipino has the right to vote, and every Filipino has the capability to express their own thoughts and what they believe is best for the country. And this is why, I mean, from what I've heard, the voters registration might be extended but then this should serve as an opportunity to register and vote for um, who we believe will be a positive impact to our country in the current times, and how in our country would be like in the future. So I mean, I hope my message gets across that we should vote and we should register to vote. With regards to students who plan to study abroad, actually, um, there are embassies in different countries, Philippine embassies in different countries, and that is usually where we could process our votes for those, let's say, OFWs, or for those international Filipino students who wish to vote for the elections next year.
All right, well said. Well said. Galing, galing. So, to our future diplomat, no, and our future, ano, congratulations. Maybe we'll see you in the running of the bulls one of these days.
Uh-oh.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Baby Pat, and that's inspiring also for all those home-based people out there, who's, running food businesses for their kids as well.
Yes.
All right, maraming salamat.
Thank you
And
so
guys,
much.
if you're watching it to the end of this live stream, you're watching this on replay, please share this to the parents or kids. Watch it for your kids who are considering to apply for their university. All right? Maraming maraming salamat. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Can
Bye.
you do a short clip?